What's going on, my North County fam? I'm your girl Kelly, here to give you the rundown on what happened in St. Louis County government this week, and I'm going to get it right into it with some highlights. So the first highlight, County Executive Page Mutumbo'd, yes, he Mutumbo'd, also known as vetoed, two bills that were passed by the county council like 2 weeks ago. So the first bill was 280, sponsored by Councilman Fitch, which provides health protections for county employees concerning COVID-19 vaccinations. And so why did Page veto the bill, right? So these are his words as to why he Mutombo'd it. Quote, in short, this bill undermines a federal program in order to placate some of our most misinformed public forum speakers. Placating conspiracy theorists cannot be our way forward in St. Louis County, and stoking fear of the vaccine will not get us out of the pandemic. That kind of behavior will only prolong it. So yeah, Mutombo'd. And then the second bill that County Executive Page Mutumbo'd was Bill number 291, which was sponsored by Councilwoman Days, which provided whistleblower protections legislation for St. Louis County employees. Page, he had a whole bunch of reasons as to why he Mutombo'd this mug. So the first reason was he mentioned something about the council's intent to regulate the police department. And that being unclear in the proposal, in the legislation, and that this regulation of the police department or whatever was done without consulting the Board of Police Commissioners. He also mentioned that this legislation is not consistent with state law. I know one of the things Councilwoman Days, she mentioned the purpose of this legislation was so the whistleblower protections in St. Louis County, it mirrored the whistleblower protections on the state level. And so again, Page said that it didn't match up. Something else he mentioned was that, quote, this bill would expose all county employees to the risk of becoming political fodder for those who want to control local governments. Exposing county employees to that risk is not a responsible step. And then he also mentioned the Human Relations Commission at their latest meeting, expressing skepticism of the bill's impact. And, Councilwoman Days was like, what are you talking about? I done reached out to these people so we can have a robust dialogue about it, and it's been crickets. So, and she said, I didn't hear them being skeptical during their meeting. What you heard wasn't what I heard, bruh. So, yes. And Councilwoman Days, again, she did respond in a whole communication, pretty much literally disagreeing with all of Sam Page's arguments. And then she said, you know what, we finna put this to a vote because if the council, if there is a bill vetoed by County Executive Page, the council, they can override that veto if they get at least 5 votes from the total of 7 council members, so a supermajority. And so they did put it to a vote Tuesday evening, and Days did not get the supermajority of the vote needed to override Sam Page's veto. So yes, he was successful in Mutombo'ing 2 bills that were passed by the council a couple weeks ago. Something else I wanted to highlight was just a couple things to keep an eye on. So first, Councilman Harder requested the preparation of legislation to address the theft and subsequent sale of catalytic converters from vehicles because it's real out here. So I'm going to keep an eye out on that proposed legislation as it kind of goes through the process that all proposed pieces of legislation do in St. Louis County Council. And also something to keep an eye on. There will be further discussion regarding the spending of ARPA coins. So I know Tuesday evening there were 2 pieces of legislation that were up for perfection, I believe. And again, so 2 different pieces of proposed legislation, and both of them included a proposal or request for ARPA funds to be utilized to update the police department's dispatch system. Again, 2 different pieces of legislation asking for the same damn thing. That's not a good look. Also, I think there was mention of making sure that Deloitte, to have a conversation with Deloitte as well, to make sure that whatever funds are spent, utilizing the ARPA coin, that it abides by those regulations, because I guess people are kind of like not on the same page when it comes to what are allowable expenses through ARPA coin. So there will be a meeting scheduled for sure after the holidays. That's what it sounded like, after Thanksgiving specifically, to make sure that everyone was kind of on the same page with the county council, as far as how these ARPA coins will be spent, and also making sure that they abide by the ARPA guidelines, because ain't nobody trying to pay the feds millions of dollars. The county ain't got that coin to pay it back. So they need to make sure that it is adhering to those requirements. And then the third highlight I wanted to lift up, y'all, the county jail. So, and this has been in the media, this has been in the media a lot. I believe last week, unfortunately, there was a corrections officer that was assaulted by a detainee in the county jail. Really unfortunate incident, and this is something that has been expressed by the Justice Services Department for a while about the issue of them being understaffed. So during Tuesday's county council meeting, quite a few staff from the Justice Department, including corrections officers and also the current acting director, Scott Anders, they were there to provide and express the need during the public comment time. They were there to advocate for folks to begin paid more, for corrections officers to begin paid more, because they need more staff, because currently it is not a safe work environment for folks. So, so something that I learned during the meeting, apparently. So there was legislation passed by the county council that would provide a lump sum of coins. So we're talking at least like $1 million here, to not only encourage like increased recruitment for corrections officers, but also to keep people that are working, to keep them to stay, right? So an incentive in that angle. And so both of these dollar amounts, so literally a $500 sign-in bonus, again, for new folks, new recruits coming in, working for the jail, and also $500 for people that have worked there for a certain length of time to keep them there. So again, this legislation, it had been passed. However, apparently that expense is not allowable when we're talking about utilizing ARPA coin for this. Also, it was lifted that the past legislation, it excluded some staff that had been shipping in and working shifts to support, them being down, some corrections officers, even though their job titles, they weren't COs. So apparently the legislation only focused on corrections officers. I know during one of the meetings, there was a case manager who had previous experience working as a corrections officer, and I think someone else spoke to this on Tuesday as well. So they were working shifts in corrections. However, because technically their job titles, they were case workers, they didn't get that coin. So that was an issue. And Chairwoman Day, she lifted up that the council members, they expressed to the county counselor's office 6 times to make sure that those case managers that were working as well, that they were included to get that coin. And for whatever reason, that was left out, which is no good. So there was a meeting that occurred yesterday to kind of flesh out next steps moving forward, what to do to make sure that a solution is developed with regards to paying staff more, because you gotta bring people in. They're down 80 officers in the county jail, y'all. 80 corrections officers. So they need more staff. This is a safety issue. And so you gotta pay people more. Currently, the COs make $18.18 an hour. And so to be competitive, they need to be making at least $2 more an hour, so roughly over $20 an hour, because apparently that's what some of the area corrections officers, that's what they're making. So the current acting director, Scott Anders, he said, I'm going to follow what the previous director, Burris, what he proposed to the council, which was a $2 per hour raise for staff, and not just the corrections officers, but also, again, those case managers and other people that are in consistent contact with detainees working in the county jail. And so Deloitte, who is the firm that's been hired to make sure that St. Louis County is in adherence with the requirements needed with regard to this ARPA coin, they were also present during the discussion, again, to make sure that this abided by those requirements. And they said, yes, that would be an allowable expense of ARPA coins. They just said, hey, make sure that the legislation adheres to or is in compliance with the state legislation. But they said, yes, it checks the boxes with regards to the ARPA regulations. And then Councilwoman Clancy was like, I get that you are, just trying to be modest. Oh, something I did want to mention too. Acting Director Scott Anders, he said that although, yes, ARPA funding, they're requesting ARPA funding to kind of kick off this increase in pay for staff, but he said he knows for sure that beyond, once this ARPA coin is spent, he said that the Justice Service Department could sustain that funding even beyond when that ARPA funding is spent. I wanted to be sure to note that. So then Councilwoman Clancy asked, she was like, okay, Scott, I hear you trying to be modest with this $2 per hour raise, and I get it's based off of what other folks are doing to make it a competitive wage for people to come to work in St. Louis County, but why not $3 an hour? Let's get it popping. And Councilwoman Webb also agreed, as she stated, quote, we don't want to just put a Band-Aid on this. So the acting director, Scott Anders, he's going to do some numbers crunching just to make sure that that $3 an hour, it could be sustained by the Department of Justice Services. Something else that he did mention was he thinks that it could be sustained because if they are fully staffed and up and running with the county jail, they would have the opportunity to house federal detainees, and that could create another source of revenue. I think there was mention of $2 to $3 million a year for that. However, again, the county jail would have to be at full capacity to be able to have that opportunity with that additional revenue. So next steps, Days will be working with the other council members to expedite getting this legislation passed like yesterday. So she'll wait on the numbers crunching by the acting director to confirm if the raise would be either $2 an hour or $3 an hour. So something else that was mentioned and discussed was really next steps to ensure the safety of the staff. So the acting director, he mentioned that they had already figured out a way to make sure that there are 2 staff in a pod instead of just 1 staff in each pod. As of December 1st, there will be hired like security guards or some type of staff, again, to beef up the capacity so that there are bodies in the jail monitoring the detainees. And he said hiring this firm is less expensive than kind of what they're currently spending with wages when it comes to overtime, because they paying hella folks in overtime. He also mentioned the National Institute of Corrections and some other consultant, I can't recall the name, will be providing like trainings for staff as well around safety, as well as leadership with management. And he also mentioned that they'll provide recommendations to improve things in the jail, and that will start, they'll be arriving, I guess, January 1st to do that. There's also mention of revisiting policies, as well as making sure that staff feel comfortable with being able to speak to concerns that they may have regarding their work environment. So yeah, y'all, I'm sure there's going to be more to come on this topic, as all parties involved, they really acknowledge the need to really address these issues, and not just, putting a Band-Aid on it, but really making sure that there is some long-term solutions to solve this issue, because this is a real safety concern. So yes, more to come on that, y'all. And then the legislative corner, we're rounding it out with several bills that were passed this week. So Bill 314 was passed, which changes a previously approved piece of legislation regarding a Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act grant. So this grant dollar amount, it changed from about $4.6 million to close to $4.8 million. And again, this point, it goes towards supporting economically disadvantaged job seekers, supporting employment, education, training, and support services for dislocated workers, also supporting career exploration and guidance, work experience, education, training, and support services for economically disadvantaged youth. Bill 315 was passed, which authorizes the county executive to execute a contract with Heritage Environment Services, LLC, for household hazardous waste facilities management services for the health department. Bill 316 was passed, which accepts a grant of up to about $1.3 million to support the WIC Local Agency Nutrition Program. And Bill 317 was passed, which accepts a grant of up to about $115,000 to support the police department's participation in the 2020 Coronavirus Emergency Supplement Funding Crimes Against Children program. So that's all I have for y'all this week. Have a great weekend. Be safe out there, and you'll see me soon. Peace.